Hello everyone and welcome back to Unity Tutorial Part 2. I sincerely apologize for this part. We'll be focusing more on actually learning the stuff rather than the editing itself. So, let's delve right into it for today. What we're going to need to start is a basic flat terrain. You can right click and import a 3D object and then click on this little terrain button right here to get it in here, and a directional light, which every single new Unity scene should start with. In order to texture it, just like we've learned in my last video, you can choose the paint texture here, edit textures, and add the textures. We are going to be using the asset packages of the environments, and that is all we will be using for today in terms of our asset packages. So, to start today is going to be focusing more on C# coding, to learn sort of how we can manipulate our game through our code in order to actually create effects and move characters and all of these things. It's good to understand the actual code itself. For in the last episode we imported a first-person preset character that already functioned perfectly by itself, but it is an FPS controller and it's already pre-made and all of that wonderful stuff. Now let's see how the FPS controller works. Well, right now I'm a very small person in a very big set of terrain. You can hear the footsteps, everything's already preloaded into the game. There is a jump speed, there is a run speed, there is a walk speed. You can adjust what you want here, there's a head bobbing, but the fact of the matter is this doesn't show you how the code actually works itself. So let's just create, let's say, a cube, alright? Let's take a look at this cube. It's pretty small and it's underneath our terrain. So let's back up by holding the S key and back up enough so we can see our terrain again. And let us reset our basic transform position. You can see in your transform here, that's basically movement in Unity. Unity's transform mechanics is its movement mechanics. So we can click the reset button here to set our cube to 0, 0, 0 or the very middle of the map. Anyways, let's move our terrain so that we can have a better kind of place for this cube to rest. And of course you'll see, since it resets to the very middle of the map, you'll see the cube is still half under the terrain. So we're just going to lift it up just a little bit. Let's say Y 0.5 for consistency. We can right click on the hierarchy menu and select the camera option. This camera option will be our window into the game so that we can actually see what's going on. As you can see, the camera doesn't move very much right now. What we're going to do is we're going to rename our cube to character. This is going to be our main character in our game that we are creating for Unity. Let's recenter our camera so that we can see our character quite well. Right behind the character seems about right, and we will be sliding our camera just over here on the hierarchy menu into our character so that it's under the character. That basically means that whenever the character moves, the camera will move with it. So let's delve right into our coding for today. Let's create a new script and let's call this script movement. Create and add. So what we're going to be using for our scripting tool for today is a program that is called MonoDevelop. MonoDevelop is an extremely useful program. It allows us to edit the code in our game, and basically it offers us an alternative to Visual Basic, but this is what comes preset with Unity. A lot of people complain about it being too slow, but I think it is perfect for what we need. Alright, so these voids are basically what we're going to be putting all of our code under. For the using Unity engine, it's basically just saying we're using Unity and we're using what we have in our system, our Unity folders. Our public class movement is basically saying that our script is called movement and that's what we're going to be using for today. And that is absolutely correct. So we don't have to change anything up here. The voids are where we will be placing all of our code. Under the void start, we'll basically be saying, Unity, run this code whenever I start the game. We don't want that for our code though. We want to be using void update, which as you can see is called once per frame. So we're saying, Unity, run this code every single frame of the game. So we're basically just going to be using void update for today. What we're going to be doing for today is we're going to be saying that if we are pressing the W key, then we want to move forward. So let's say if input get key, and then we type in a key W, we type in key code dot, and then we type in our key. W works. So these are all of our keys that we have to choose from. So we're basically going to be writing if input dot key code dash, or parentheses key code dot W. So that is our if statement for this block of code that we have. And now that we know that, we're basically saying if the player is pressing the W key, this is the code that we want to run. So we want to run a code that is going to push our player forward. So how do we do that? So what we want to say in this field of text in order to tell our character to move forward is transform, dot translate, and then we're going to open up our bracket and write X, Y, Z, except not with that stuff. So basically, what we're telling our character to do here is to transform, translate, so basically move on the X axis, the Y axis, and the Z axis. So it always goes like that, X, Y, Z. So we can tell our character in what direction to move. In our case, we are going to want to impact the X variable, as that is our forward and backward motion. Z is going to be left to right, and Y is going to be our up and down planes. So what we're going to want to write here is just simple 1.0f to indicate that it is a fixed variable. And for the rest of our numbers, we are going to write 0 to indicate that we don't want them to move when we are pressing W. And let's save our code and let's flip back to Unity. Back in Unity, we can see that our script has taken effect. Let's press the play button. Oh, excuse me. Unity is very particular about the way it wants to write its code. For example, you need to bracket the if statement. You need to make sure that there are two squiggly brackets inside of your if statements to indicate what is in the if statements, and you need one of these semicolons at every end of your line of code to indicate that it is in fact the end of your line of code. So now that we have all of those issues out of the way, let's save our script and jump right back into Unity to see if it's functioning properly. So let's press the play button and let's see. Oh, well, it looks as if we have made a little bit of a mistake here. Our camera is facing the wrong way, so let's rotate our camera around to where it should be. We're going to rotate along the X, we're going to rotate among the Y, just like that, and now we are facing this direction. And let's put our camera right beside the cube. We can see in our camera preview down in the bottom right corner that we are putting it where we want it to be. So let's press play again and see if it works. Well, yes, it works perfectly fine. You can see that when we are pressing the W key on our keyboard, our cube is moving forward. Now, our cube doesn't have any physics yet, so if I go off the edge of our terrain, it's going to keep going. Just like that. We don't want that to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a component. We are going to add the rigid body component. Adding the rigid body component, we don't have to do anything to it right now. Basically just adding it will basically make our character a real object. It will also make, it'll basically make our character a real object. But let's make sure to put our rigid body on the character and not the camera. Simple little mistakes in Unity can make you mess up and take extra time out of your work. So now you can see, well, not yet, but you're going to see soon that once we get to the edge of the terrain, that we'll fall right off now that our character utilizes gravity, and all of that other fun stuff. Well, you can't exactly see it. So, how about, in order to see this a little better, let's add a rotation mechanic. Back to our code. Very simple. We will just be copying and pasting our previous if statement from before. Let's copy and paste it around 4 times. So now, since we know that we are getting the key, we're going to say that we want that to be the S key instead. So what do we want if it's an S key? Well, we want this to be negative 1.0f, so then we go backwards instead of forwards. Now, we are going to want to rotate left and right. So, let's adjust these to A and D, our proper rotation keys, A being left and D being right. So first, let's get rid of those 1.0f's as we won't be needing them anymore. And let's replace our translate with a rotate. This functions exactly the same, except for X, Y, and Z instead functioning as which way would you like to rotate. So we are going to be rotating along the x-axis like before. So I guess we didn't have to delete those 1.0f's, so let's get right back into it and place them right back there again, with a negative on the D. So let's save our code and see if it runs fine. Let's play our game and see how it works. It looks like we're rotating along the wrong axis. So what we're going to want to do here, and these kind of mistakes will happen in Unity all the time, and what you're going to have to do is just learn by trial and error. So let's change this back to negative, and let's see if it works properly. Ah, there we go. The only issue is that when I press A, I'm rotating in the wrong direction. So I'm just going to have to switch around a negative, and that should be good. So let's see if we fall off the edge with our rigid body. Yep, we're falling off the edge just as intended, with a little bit of tilt for dramatic effect. You can adjust that later by locking your rotation scales, but I won't go into too much detail on that right now. So what we're going to want to do to make this a little bit cleaner is we're going to want to go into our public class, and we're going to say public float move speed and public float move, or excuse me, tilt speed. And of course we have to end these in semicolons, or else the program will not know that that is the end of our statements. Basically what these public floats will do is they will create easy little categories for us to organize right here in the actual Unity program itself. So we can see now that we have a move speed variable that we can change to whatever we want for testing purposes, making things a little more easy and a little more clean. So let's go back into the code and change up our variables. So when we're going up, when we're going forward, we are going to be going 1.0f forward, but instead we're going to change it to move speed, our public variable. Now we want it still to be negative, so we're just going to make it negative move speed. Whew, I am quite a rusty typer. So now, for our rotation, we are going to say tilt speed, and for our negative rotation, we are going to say negative tilt speed. So let's save this program and get right back into Unity and see how it works. Well, the thing is we haven't changed our variable, so it still thinks that there's 0 and 0. So let's change that right now. Let's change our move speed variable to a 5, and let's change our tilt speed variable to a 5. We are going very quick and rotating very fast. As you can see here, the 5 is probably not the best option for the move speed, but I am rather liking the 5 tilt. It allows our character to tilt at a fast speed, and allows our character to have some versatility in their movements. And we fall to our doom. So, as I said before, these were on the wrong negative spots, so let's just change those negatives really quickly. And it looks like we are perfect. We now have a fully functioning moving character. Well, first we're going to have to change it. It doesn't change while you're in the program itself, so you're going to have to go out of the program and change it, and then it will save, and then you go back in while you're playing it, and then your changes are already made. As you can see, creating the character yourself offers a lot of versatility and a lot of creative freedom to how you want your character to move and how you want your character to see. You can also change the camera itself. You could also change these options in the FPS controller themselves, but the fact of the matter is it's very difficult to have a good understanding of how each tidbit of code works when you're brand new to the Unity software itself. So it's very good to learn these types of scripts and learn the translate and transform mechanics. Anyways, that just about wraps it up for me. I hope you all had an amazing time watching this video, and I hope I taught you something about how to use Unity. I'm sorry for the lack of Steven Universe content right now, and there will be more up on the channel very soon. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.